Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Jas Takhar. Jas has been in the sales and service industry for over 25 years. Soon after deciding to try his hand in real estate, he co-founded the REC and in the course of 15 years has successfully propelled his team to the first place position in Canada under Royal LePage. With 34 realtors and 10 support staff, the team advises and assists over 700 buyers, sellers, and investors yearly across the Greater Toronto area, resulting in a total of over $1.5 billion in transactions. Jas's area of expertise is in helping investors build out their real estate portfolios. Wanting to share his knowledge and experience with the masses, he wrote a book entitled Real Estate Intelligence, which teaches others how to buy or sell real estate on their own. So without further delay, welcome Jas.
Thank you so much for having me, Unique. I really appreciate it.
Great. So before we jump into all of the juicy nuggets on customer experience, could you share a little bit about your journey, how you ended up where you are today, and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I've been in sales and service now for 25 years. As you mentioned in the bio there, real estate has been 15 years for me specifically. But I was always that kid, right? Unique, like I was always selling, even as a young kid, in class in school when I was probably 6, 7 years old, and the teacher said, "Who wants to help with?" Selling ornaments during the holiday time, or help with the book fair when the parents are going to come and buy books. Like I always had my hand up. I was very eager to do really anything with sales. And then when it really kind of came home for me, it was when I was 12 years old. I got my first paper route, but it was here in Toronto, where for the Toronto Sun, where you have to knock on doors first to get subscribers. And I just even though I was, as I think about it now, as I'm telling you the story, like I remember heart beating, getting goosebumps, scared to knock on the door, but I always did. I always knocked on the door. And then it was, fast forward to when I was 15, 16 years old, started selling shoes. Then I went into the banking industry, but with client facing. And then I started selling cars for 3 years in the luxury kind of car market, Acura, Lexus. And that's where I really was mentored by one of Canada's most successful owners. I think him and his family now own 8, 9 top dealerships in Canada, based out of here in the Greater Toronto area. But he took me under his wing. There's 3 brothers, but he took me under his wing, one of the owners, and just taught me how to sell, how to take care of people, how to ask for referrals, how to kind of tap root into other people's network. And then 15 years ago, I made the big jump because in car sales, I realized that there was a ceiling in terms of how much I could make just looking at what some of the people that have been in the business for 15 years, what they were making. And so once I decided to get into real estate, as they say, the rest is history. I mean, I'm proud to say now that we have 37 realtors. I'm going to have my team make sure they make that switch in the bio, with 10 support staff. Customer service is the number one metric we use. And what I mean by that is how many wows can we get during the process?
All right. So you dovetailed nicely into my next question. And so could you share with us, Jas, how it is that you are able to provide white glove service to your clients and customers? Maybe give us 2 or 3 things that our listeners could take away and maybe use some of those same strategies in their business.
Yeah, look, I mean, real estate is one of the biggest purchases that someone's going to make. And so what I decided to do, not really once I got into the business, because 15 years ago I was still learning it, and kind of getting an an idea of how I was going to make kind of a dent into the marketplace and get market share. And what I came to realize was that a lot, and just like in any sales profession, if it's insurance or car sales, real estate, if you're an advisor, consultant, really the bar is set low. I hate to say it. I mean, I owe everything to this industry, like the sales industry, but I think salespeople are the least trusted professionals. So knowing that, the bar's not set that high. And so what I started doing really at within about 2-3 years is asking customers. I was like, what are your expectations? And so a lot of people would be kind of blown away with that question. Like, what do you mean? Well, I'm like, what are your expectations in this process? Like, are you looking into buying quickly? Are you wanting to wait? Is this a long-term investment? Is this something that you want to buy and flip? Or do you expect me to answer your calls every single day? Like, whatever it is, I just want to know, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what are your expectations? Now, in the back end, the reason I was asking this question is because one of our company models here is that exceed expectations, clients' expectations. Well, the only way that you exceed them is if you know what they are. And so I would get people telling me, well, I want you to answer all my calls every single time I call, even if at 11 o'clock. And I was like, well, that can't happen. That's not who I am, right? And so I was able to start to set barriers right at the start. What I also realized in real estate, that most salespeople were always calling outbound and asking if somebody wanted to buy, sell a home. So a service that I offered, and look, for anybody who's listening who's in sales, I think you can do this in any industry. What we started was a real estate concierge service. It's absolutely free. There's no cost. And so anybody who's listening actually anywhere in the country of Canada, I'm based out of Toronto, but it doesn't matter where you are. If you need a plumber for your home, your principal residence, or an investment property that you have, and you need a plumber or an electrician, we will vet one out for you. We do all the heavy lifting. We do all the work. We make majority of the guys and gals from a service provider perspective are already on our list. But if we don't have somebody in Nunavut, which is like in a very far north cold place in Canada, we will go find them for you, and there is no cost for that service. What started to happen is clients were starting to say, wow, that is so different, and you're not charging for it? No, in fact, I'll even go one step above, Mr. and Mrs. Client. If there is a property that you're looking into buying in our backyard or somewhere else in the country, and you just want a second set of eyes, we'll be that for you. Meaning like how you go for a second opinion with a doctor.
Right.
Let us be that for you. Well, people were blown away. They started to look at us like we weren't even real estate people anymore. They're like, okay, great. Like, thanks for all the education. Can you put me in touch with a real estate agent? Like, that's what started to happen because we didn't think about the transaction, right? We started to think about how can we not only do business with Luke, the buyer, seller, or investor, but I know that on average, he knows 200 people. So if he knows 200 people that also know 200 people, because that's a statistic that I think everybody would agree, I probably know about 200 people approximately. Well, that means my network now is 40,000 possible people to do business with.
Right.
Right. And so when you think about it from that mindset, it's like, wow, like, okay, like all I got to do is take care of the first person who does business with me. And then onwards and onwards. Right. Rather than how do I sell this person? How do I manipulate or one thing that a lot of the coaches, sales coaches talk about. And look, I mean, each to their own and their own business models. But a lot of the sales coaches will talk about, well, you got to handle their objection. What are they, a hockey puck? Like you're handling them like with a stick? That's not how this works. You know what I mean? Like be nice. Picture everyone as your best friend, your grandmother, like ask why they would want to buy. Why are they buying this property? Find out their motivation. Dig deeper, get to know them. And so to come full circle in terms of one or two tips, I mean, number one is offer more value than you're getting paid for. And so, for example, I talked about the real estate concierge service being the second opinion, try to become the authority in that sense. Number two is that I give away all the information for free. You mentioned the book. There's no cost for that book. And so anybody, even if you're in the real estate, even if you're a real estate agent in my office, come to my office, come to the back. There's no cost for this book. It's absolutely free. We have an audio version, we have a PDF version, and we have a hard copy. Whatever which way you want to consume it, we'll give it to you again at no cost. It actually, Unique, talks about how to buy your own home, how to sell your own home, how to invest on your own. And some people in the industry and, quote unquote, off my competitors would say, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you give them all the information that you're supposed to charge for? Because there's a little site that's called YouTube and Google that everybody can find out on their own how to do these things. They don't need us.
True.
They don't need us, right? And so why not be the person that's out there giving the information for free? And I can tell you, like, firsthand experience, you start you start to be looked at as not and please, like, don't take this the wrong way, but not being looked at as the sleazy salesperson who only has commission breath. You start to look at like somebody who cares. And I hope anybody who's listening to this podcast and your viewers and your listeners, I mean, you're you authentically care. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that you really care. Like, you care about the person. You're not trying to manipulate them or trying to rip them off. And so let others see that and feel that from you.
Agreed. All right. Good stuff. So those are two excellent points that you can consider if you're trying to really win at your customer experience, especially from an authentic point of view. Okay, Jas, now could you share with us, how do you stay motivated every day?
Look, I mean, my why is very strong. My why in my life is really to inspire as many people as I possibly can. I kind of, for me, it's very neat because I'll never hit it. Like, I'll never hit inspiring everyone. You know what I mean? Like, there's 7 billion people on this planet. But I just love the journey. I love doing these podcasts. I love doing videos. I love like writing articles and getting out as much as I possibly can. Why? Because I'm born and raised in the north part of Toronto, in an area called Rexdale, where there really wasn't a lot of role models, right? You kind of see people selling drugs on the side, and there's some crime in the area. And I grew up in that area with as I mentioned, not a lot of role models. And so am I uber successful? I mean, in my own eyes, I'm not. I'm just Jas Takhar, a son of Ajmer and Kuljit Takhar, and that is I won the lottery, in 1981 when I was born in the family that I was born in. Like, I'm so blessed, so grateful, and especially when my parents came to Canada 8-9 years before I was born, and so now I want to inspire people. And so for me, I wake up, I spring out of bed, Unique. I have a very tough time some nights going to sleep because, from in a good way, like, I'm very anxious, can't wait to get back at it. I have 2 little boys, and I know that, like, they're looking up to me, like they're 1's 7 and 1 is almost 5 in a couple of months or a month and a half. And I want them to be proud of daddy, and I'm leaving a legacy. It's why I do a lot of videos. Like, I probably put out about 20 pieces of content on all the platforms, like on all platforms daily. Like, every day I put out about 20 pieces of content. And the reason is because, like, I was just telling somebody this in my office yesterday in my media squad. I was like, I don't think I can't remember my dad's voice. Like, my father's still alive. He's 73, 74. But I don't remember my dad's voice as like a younger man, because there's no videos. Like, I don't have any videos of my dad. Like, we probably have 18 pictures of him or something like that. You know what I mean? And like his sideburns and his bell bottoms back in the late 70s. My pops probably took it into the 80s too, for all I know. I don't remember his voice and how he moved. How did he interact with other people? Like, I have some pictures, like those 17, 18 pictures. My mom too. Like, I don't remember my mother's voice, and let alone my great grandfather, who was kind of like, sorry, not my great grandfather, who was kind of like the godfather of the family. My dad speaks very highly of him. My grandfather, I was lucky enough to know all my grandparents, speak very, very highly of my great grandfather. I know nothing about him.
Yeah.
Never seen him. He passed away probably maybe when I was 1 or maybe just before. And I would love to have seen what he was up to and how he did things, and so I'm putting that out in the world now, and that's why I put out so much content. So that is what like keeps me self-motivated. Like I don't need a book to read, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't need a podcast to listen to. I love listening to podcasts and audiobooks. Because it's something that I want to get better at, but I wouldn't need it because I'm being pulled by something now. I'm no longer pushing towards anything. There's something that's bigger that's pulling me.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Now, Jas, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
I would say, like from a social media perspective, it would be, for me, it would be Spotify, like the audio platform for me, because that's where I just get my podcasts. It's where I put out my podcasts. It's the medium that really changed a lot for me, like personally, from a personal brand perspective. I was not comfortable with video at the start. Now I want 15 cameras around at all times because I like I'm having fun with it. You know what I mean? Like really, I'm trying different things. I'm seeing how do I connect with people? Do they like this? So I'm having a lot of fun. But at the start, it was the audio medium, the audio platform that really allowed me the comfort in doing it consistently. Because people didn't see me, my insecurities didn't really have to play out as much because it wasn't visual, and so the audio really played out. In total, like in general, though, believe it or not, my number one app that is the most important on my phone is my calculator. It is by far the one app I can't live with. Maybe because there's a little chip on Jas's shoulders sometimes. All the teachers who said that, well, you can't go to the grocery because when you go to the grocery store, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. Well, I kind of do now, right? And so I love my teachers. They're amazing. But really, for me, the calculators, because I'm calculating a lot of numbers all the time for my clients, for myself. I'm putting deals together. If I'm negotiating something, I need the calculator. And so I probably use the calculator the most.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So Spotify and your calculator. Now, could you share with us maybe 1 or 2 books that have had the biggest impact on you?
The first book that I would have read would have been The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. It was Jack Canfield is the co-author, of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah.
But he wrote his right after, I think like maybe a couple of years after, maybe a few years after he wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, he came up with this book, The Success Principles. There's 64 or 67, don't quote me, principles. And the way that it's a thick book when you look at it. And so it's kind of intimidating for me anyways, because I'm not the kid that was really good with textbooks and stuff in school. Like I wasn't never that kid, but I was always drawn to personal development. I'm in the process of writing my own book right now that should be coming out in 6 to 8 months in the personal development realm, because I was so inspired by so many guys and gals in that field. But the way that, as I mentioned, a very thick book, looks intimidating, but wow, the Success Principles, the way that he wrote it, it's really, in layman's terms, I understood it really quickly, and then I executed. And then the second one is, I'm sure anybody who's listening to this podcast has heard it, is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey, Dr. Stephen Covey, the late, great Stephen Covey. May he rest in peace. He just was someone that I followed as much as I could. I mean, social media back in, when I probably read that book in 2005, there wasn't really much in the social media world. And so I had to old school, do as much research as I can. I picked up his Franklin Covey planner and everything that Dr. Stephen Covey touched. I wanted part of it because I just thought he was such a brilliant, brilliant man. And that book, The 7 Habits, really is something that I probably have read 3 times. and listen to the audio version 3 times as well. It's the one book, along with Success Principles. Both of them, actually, I probably recommend the most to my team, especially my younger interns that are with me now, because I just think they're written very well, and most importantly, they're so timeless.
Amazing. All right. So both excellent books, Success Principles by Jack Canfield and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. We'll have both the links to those books in the show notes of this episode. All right. Jas, can you share with us what's one thing that's going on in your life right now? Either something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Well, the one thing that is actually works, they coincide with each other, is the working with the people that are I'm growing with right now, which I find very interesting because my 37 realtors that I have, they're independent contractors. These guys and gals are stars in their own right, and they're out and about in the world doing their thing. It's my 10 core staff that's with me on a daily basis, that I get to spend a lot of time with, and some of them have, out of the 10, have been with me for 10 years, and others just joined me 2 weeks ago, and so I'm having a blast watching them grow. Overall, it's this book that I'm coming out with that I'm most excited about, Unique, because it's my turn now to give back as much as I could. As much as I can, sorry. And this book, Removing Friction, how to get out of your own way, is really something I'm excited about, because it's not a book that I'm putting together that's taken 3 months to put together. It's still not even done. It's only 40% complete, but that 40% has taken a year, call it. And it's going to take another year and a half to complete. I'm so excited because there's so much effort, time being put into this. This is not going to be like a guide, like a quick guide. It's not something that I'm looking into even having quick sales. I want longevity with this book. I want this to be spoken about how I just spoke about the success principles and the 7 habits, where it's evergreen. It's gonna last forever, and that's what I'm very excited about. It's my story, along with a lot of tactical tips on how to get things done and get out of your own way, because I'm such a big believer that 90% of success, whatever success means to you, is mindset, and 10% is the actual mechanics / execution of it. And the number one thing that I think when it comes to mindset, so that 90%, 100% of that 90%, if everyone follows along, it is understanding that you need to get out of your own way. That person that talks to you every second, what are they like? You shutting him up or shutting her up sometimes, or allowing them to speak. That person inside you, really getting in line with that person. And I'm such a big believer about it, and I want to write about it.
All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to your book. So
I appreciate that.
If our listeners when our listeners listen to this program and they hear your story and they hear the excitement in your voice about this book and all of the great insights and nuggets that it's about to present for them, where can they find you online if they'd like to connect with you and keep in touch, so that when the book does get published, they can be one of the first people to know? Where can we find you online?
I think you go Instagram, IG. It's Jas Takhar 13, JAS TAKHAR 13 is my lucky number. So it's Jas Takhar 13. Or if you kind of want to be all in my world, then jastakhar.ca, JASTAKHAR.ca.
Okay. All right. So we'll have the links to those in our show notes. So those of you that would like to connect with Jas outside of this podcast can definitely connect. All right, Jas, before we wrap up our interview, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to keep you focused or get you back on track if it is that you do fall off track.
First, I want to say that you have an amazing voice, Unique. I'm not sure if anybody's ever told you that, and I will tell you that. B,
thank you.
I also want to thank you, and I'm going to answer your question. I also want to say to you that thank you for putting out so much content. As I mentioned, I put out 20 pieces of content a day, and I know how hard it is to get guests and just put yourself out there for the world to critique, give positive vibrations, give negative vibrations, and that's not easy. And so for that, I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And so what I would say is the quote that I probably have lived by for the last, like, I've embodied it. It was by Dr. Martin Luther King, who said that you don't need to see the whole staircase, you just need to see the first step.
Yeah.
And so for me, the reason that has always, the first time I read it, I mean, obviously, Dr. Martin Luther King is a very special person. But when he said that, and obviously he has a lot of other quotes too, but that specific one for me was so important because, I think so many people get caught up in how much they want to accomplish. And then when they get, or what they want to accomplish, and it's usually very big, and dreaming big and having big aspirations, like, that's amazing, and as you should. But then most people get stopped. Like, they don't get started.
Yeah.
Like, they never actually take the next step. And when you come to understand that, don't worry if you don't see the whole staircase. You don't have to see how it's all going to unfold. You just got to take that first step, because what happens is the right people and all the resources will come into your life.
True. Very true. All the people, circumstances, and events will present themselves to you, and it will all line up. I totally agree. Love it. Okay. Well, thank you, Jas, for sharing your quote. We'll definitely have that quote in the show notes of this episode. We really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. We know you're all about, working with your team and ensuring that your customers and clients and even non-customers, prospects, are definitely getting all the things that you promised them, and they're able to realize their dreams, and you're able to exceed their expectations, just giving them just a little bit more than they had expected. So we really appreciate you taking time from that to spend time with us and our audience to share all of the great insights that you shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me again.
You're welcome. So guys, I just want to remind you to log on to Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. Thank you for listening to Navigating the Customer Experience. If you'd like to connect with us even more, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.